Hey everybody, my name's Kyle. I've been a DoorDash, GrubHub driver now for a little over a year. I do this as a gig economy job. It's a second job, but I tell you what, it makes a world of difference in my lifestyle, definitely. I mean, I get almost double what I make as a full-time delivery driver. Also work for a pharmacy. I do that full-time, and I do GrubHub and DoorDash as a part-time job. And I notice, I'm just going to give you a few tips today that I'm going to pass along to people that are just starting this out. Like I said, I do this as a part-time job, but if you work, everyone has different goals. But for me, if I can make $50 to $100 extra a day, that's good enough for me. So, everyone's different, but I typically work an extra 2 to 3 hours a day driving, delivering GrubHub and Uber Eats and DoorDash. So in my area, and I work in a small area, but I live outside of Indianapolis, and I do one of the small towns outside of Indianapolis, but my area seems to be a really, really thriving area. It's a small knit local town, but the people in this town support all of their food and the restaurants in this area. So GrubHub and DoorDash are the two main businesses that keep you going. And my advice, advice number one, I guess, would be use both apps and both services at the same time so you can maximize what you make. Some people can do that on their one phone, but I suggest if you have the ability to get two separate phone and use each service on, let's say you use GrubHub on one phone and DoorDash on the other phone, it makes life much easier when you're out delivering, especially when you're trying to drive and figure out where you're going, and just helps makes things easier if you can keep things organized the best you can. I have an iPhone, and it can be done on one phone, but I tell you, you're going to make more mistakes by doing it on one phone, because there's going to be times while you're out making, you get a delivery come in, and what I always do, I have both going. When the first delivery comes in that you accept, take it from whatever company it is, and shut off the app or pause the app on the other one and deliver. But there's times where you get so busy, you got two orders coming in at the same time, and you forget to shut one off, and it just makes it so much easier if you can actually have two separate phones doing one app on each phone. That's suggestion number one. And by doing it that way, you can maximize your money that way, and you can hit your goals a lot faster. $50 to $100. Some people want to hit $200. Everyone's different on that. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, this is something that I just have discovered, and I've watched a lot of videos on people that do route delivery. This is a tip that I personally use that no one else has ever talked about. But this works for me, and it will work for you. All you got to do is just make this a habit. Doesn't matter which company you're with, you have the opportunity to text the customer while you're waiting in line to get that order, because you got a couple minutes easily in between getting that order. Always text the customer and let them know that you will be there ASAP, and text them what I just said. Tell the customer you're at the restaurant and let them know that you will be there ASAP. Just by doing that, the communication part, there's times where you can get extra sauces where it's been missed, or drinks, or just communication with that customer will lead to better tips. It's a fact. It works. Just communicate with your customer and try to make that become a habit with every order that you do. That is a gem right there, because no one has ever talked about that on any video that I've ever seen. And number 3, just be patient. There's days that I've noticed where I've been out and about and you can't stop not getting orders all day long. Doesn't matter which company, DoorDash or GrubHub or Uber Eats, you're just busy. And that's what your goal is, to stay as busy as possible. That's why I suggest use multiple apps at once, because you can maximize your dollars that way and probably spend less time driving or wear and tear in your car. But there's days where it's going to be dead and you can't figure out why. Because, I mean, let's say you first started and the first few days you're just making the money. And then all of a sudden you come to a day where it just seems like you can't pay somebody to give you an order. But there's days like that. It's because it's either a slow time of year, or what I have found in my area, if you're especially in a small market area, it's oversaturated with drivers at that time. That just happens. That's why using 2 apps at once can help offset that some. But still, there's days where there's restaurants are just slow. It's a slow time of year, and you've got an over influx of drivers in the area doing delivery all at once, and it just is dead. I mean, that's just a fact. So try to use multiple apps at once. And I mean, I've seen people use up to 3 apps at once. You can do Uber Eats, GrubHub, and DoorDash. Speaking of that, if you want to do like up to 3, there is an app out there called Para. Download it from the App Store. It's both on Android and Apple. It's called Para. It kind of saves this headache, and this app is designed just for that, where you can do multiple companies at once and run it all through the same app. But with that being said, there is a downside of running multiple apps, because each company has their own metric system where they measure your performance by. Each one's different. Like Uber Eats is different than DoorDash, which is different than GrubHub. Like GrubHub, I mean, if you're the type of person that has a busy life and is just, changing from day to day, that can hurt you on GrubHub, because they want you to set a set schedule and stick to that schedule. If you drop that schedule, that can hurt you as performance, and they rate you on a weekly basis. With that being said, though, you can run, we're talking not Uber Eats, we're talking GrubHub right now. You can turn your app on GrubHub even though you're not scheduled, and they will give you orders. So that's a good flexibility. But if you're scheduled to work, they want you to work the time that you're scheduled, from the very second it starts to the very second it ends. And if you delete or something happens, something comes up, you have to shut it off. That's going to hurt your performance. Now on DoorDash, that's just the opposite. They don't care about that as much, if at all. But they want to make sure that you get the delivery to the customer on time and quality. They want you to be early, pick up the order. They want you to deliver the order and everything to go through. I mean, there's 3 different categories they qualify you on as well. So, I mean, it's hard to explain it. I don't have the information right in front of me, but if you use both DoorDash and Uber Eats and GrubHub, all 3, they each have different performance standards you have to go by. But if you're going to use all 3, and if you can, because not always, not all those 3 are always accepted in the same markets, I would suggest using that app called Para, Para. And you can set parameters within that app where you have a minimum amount to be, your minimums that you want for your orders, and it'll accept and decline orders for you. But you have to take into consideration your performance on each app is going to be different. So with that being said, that's my share today. So I hope you learned something from this. I'll talk to you soon.